It's often hard to see perspectives outside of our own. We all have our own lives. We go about and we do things in our own way. We have our own circle, and even people who kind of escape their parents and go and have a radical change in life. Like if you grew up on a farm and you moved to New York, uh, to go to college, there's it's you still don't fully escape that perception because life, is a summation of a lot of experiences that take years and years. So you can't just kind of change your environment and be a different person. And for that reason, it's sometimes hard to understand where each other is coming from. Where it comes to comics, it's often hard to understand kind of the perception of the art community and why it's so different in many cases from the reader community. So let's get into that. Hey, everybody, this is Perch. If you want to be successful in understanding someone else, and keep in mind, a lot of people don't want to understand other people. One of the interesting problems that I see right now with the discord in the country and kind of this idea around, how do you tackle truly evil people like white supremacists and others? It's that we hear more and more this idea of, well, we don't want to understand those people. We don't want to know what they're thinking. We don't want to see their side of things. Keep in mind that those words are very specifically said. Nobody, I would hope, wants to agree with a white supremacy organization. No one wants to say they acknowledge or support Nazis or whatever Nazis are in 2020. But understanding them is different from agreeing. Understanding is how you come up with a battle plan, how you actually stop this stuff. If you don't try and understand racism, if you don't try to get to the bottom of why these people are behaving the way they are, you're going to have very little success in actually tackling it. Otherwise, you're just you're shooting blind. You're hoping that you can come to a conclusion, and that's a dangerous place to be if your goal is to actually improve things. Now, comics and the art community, as you've heard from some of the interviews I've done and other things, there's this certain idea around the romance of a starving artist, and the idea that you can basically, if you're making a lot of money, it's almost shameful. If you're successful in your business, you must have cheated somehow because true artists, true creators, are not supposed to be wealthy. They're not supposed to have all this cash. It's one reason why you see some cliques in comics have been destroyed by one member of the clique getting a lot of money, being very successful at things, and then their friends who are friends all along the line suddenly turn on them. How dare you buy 2 cars, 3 cars, classic cars? How dare you move to a new house? How dare you get that pool made? How dare you have extra money? How dare you show those photos of your trip to Europe? It didn't look like you were staying in hostels. It looked like you were staying in fancy resorts. How dare you? And it's all part of this belief that if you're in the creative community, you need to suffer. You need to be poor. You need to, and what's weird is nobody, I think collectively, nobody likes that. Nobody likes to be poor. Nobody likes to have, not enough money. But because there's not a lot of cash inside of comics, there's not the Steve Jobs of comics. There's not billions of dollars floating into comics. Most people have come to the conclusion they have to accept it. If you love comics, you want to follow your passion, you're going to have to accept that you're not going to make a lot of money. Was a quote, "Comics are going to break your heart, kid." And that's a shame. You would always hope that your passion for things, your interest, will line up with making a lot of money, being a financial success. You hope that, especially when you turn on the TV and you see people who are like, they're stockbrokers who manage investment portfolios, and they're making 7-8 figure salaries, and that seems wrong. What a boring, stupid job to be making $10 million. That's terrible. That's not how the system should work. But that is how the system works. Should doesn't really factor into anything. And so I let off with that. You have to understand. People are like, what? I'm still not getting why you let off with this whole white supremacy thing. It's because we do have to understand each other and where we're coming from. We have to be willing to uh, you know, get some knowledge about why people are acting the way they're acting, even if we dislike it. It's one of the reasons why on the comics side of the world, I've said, just saying, hey, these fans are toxic fans, and leaving it at that is a bad plan. We need to understand, what made them toxic. Why are they angry? Why such angst about Miles Morales becoming Spider-Man? Is it just racism? I always love it when people are willing to discount pretty complex things into very simple terms, like it's racism. That's good news. If all the anger at Marvel and all those problems are just racism, if that's it, that's the only problem. Okay, well that's actually fairly easy to solve. You might say, well, wait a minute, how? Racism is a very complex, painful topic to discuss. It is. But if we've boiled down all the problems in comics and the people complaining about them to racist, well, great. Well, we can move forward with actually, not not listening to them anymore. If somebody's going to hate a comic because of the color of the character's skin, then that person is a crazy person, and we can give up trying to market to them to any of that. But we just need to make sure that that's it. That truly we've done our homework, we've looked at everything, and yep, everybody is happy with comics except the racists. Everybody. Everybody knows that's not the case. And so we must keep digging. We must keep understanding. We must keep trying to figure out why things are the way they are. Because otherwise, we're not going to solve it. You can't solve anything by just saying someone is bad. And that goes on the other side too. I'm hopping back and forth here. Creators are not paid enough money to really see this as a major business to want to grow and evolve. And on top of that, a lot of creators don't feel like they have the control. There's been kind of this myth perpetuated in comics that you really have only two options. You can either submit to Marvel and DC, in which case you need to make sure that you're always on the good side of whatever editor or corporate stooge is responsible for giving you extra work, because we're not going to hire you as an employee. We're going to basically keep you at a short leash where every 6 months we're going to renew your contracts. We're going to give you new things. But if you mess up, if you make us mad for whatever crazy reason, and by the way, it's systems like that where racism really breeds, well, then you're going to be out and you're going to have no money and you're going to starve and you're not going to be able to do what you love. You'll have to go get that job at Starbucks. Or, option B that they tell you is, well, you're going to have to do creator owned. You're going to have to go to Image. If you go to Image, then you'll be able to control your own comic, and then you'll have to take a lot of meetings, and maybe your stuff won't work, and maybe you'll starve out anyway. But that's all you got. You got path A, which is submit and pray that you don't piss anybody off, or path B of take all the risks in your own hands, and maybe if you get lucky and the stars align and nobody steps in your way to try and stop you, you'll be successful. Those are two bad options. To be honest, I mean, it's good to have options. I'm not saying you get rid of both of those, but I am saying you need to have an option 3 and an option 4 and an option 5. And that's one reason why crowdfunding is starting to go. It's a little bit like to do it yourself. It's a little bit why there is different groups like Artisans and others who are trying to create other publisher models, other things. It's why TKO is doing what they're doing. I mean, lots of people are trying new business ventures, but it starts with the creators themselves recognizing that there are other routes, there are other ways that things can be done, and taking advantage of those other ways. This isn't going to be an easy process, but fans often look at this and say, why are these comic creators, supporting looters, or why are they all posting the same message? When there was a kind of we reject Comicsgate message, all the creators kind of posted this same thing. Why? Why did they do that? Well, they did it because, some people who they believed had some influence mailed them saying, we would appreciate if you support this and you would post this. And many of them did. And then, 6 hours later, the ones that hadn't got a follow-up mail saying, hey, what's the problem with you supporting this? And if they still didn't do anything, then something was posted publicly saying, hey, Scott Snyder, why don't you support us? What's going on here? And there's this peer pressure exists to kind of kind of push people in this direction. That's probably not healthy, and in a weird way, that's very anti-creativity. It's kind of the opposite of the romantic creative. I mean, imagine going to Da Vinci and saying, "Hey, we're going to want you to say the same thing all the other artists are saying. You're going to have to, Van Gogh, you need to stop with cutting off the ears. You're making the rest of us look bad. You're going to have to instead, read this prepared statement that all the other artists in the area are also saying, and that's going to be what you're going to have to do." What a weird. I mean, it's weird the creative community has gotten there, but that's where things are at. But at the same time, if you're a creator and you love comics and you want to work in comics and you're trying to build your career and be financially successful and get yourself somewhere, then this is the world you live in. And so as fans, as everybody, we've got to understand that. If we don't understand it, then we're just going to continue to argue and butt heads, and it's not actually going to lead anywhere. We do have to actually come up with some better plans. So it's not this isn't a simple problem, but it does start with really trying to understand where other people are coming from. And again, I guess I'll conclude this right at the beginning. It's why I use that more probably shocking analogy at the beginning. Understanding someone does not mean agreeing. It does not mean signing off on their ideology. It doesn't mean saying, "Hey, this is what needs to happen," and by understanding and by listening to you, I now am a supporter of you. You don't have to support someone to listen, but you do need to listen to them to understand where they're coming from. And the only way you're going to either join them or fight them or come up with a better solution or change things in any kind of positive way is if you understand the person you're talking to. If you don't, you have no hope of success in that world. I don't know. This feels like at times I'm very optimistic. At times I'm very pessimistic. Increasingly, it feels like the gap is dividing faster than ever, and we are going to come up with 2 countries, and then 3 countries, and 4 countries, and 10 countries. If you spend time on social media, you'll get more and more of this feeling. You'll get because the whole system is designed to really divide people. Through division comes clicks, and through clicks comes attention, and through attention comes valuation, and nothing, fighting makes more money than peace by far. But it's a shame to see it infect everything we do, where we have to have this infection. And I just hope that whatever leaders come next, what other politicians, whatever, that there is a motivation to not seize power, but to actually heal things, to actually create understanding, to actually try and figure out what the most common factors are between ourselves and lean into that. Because otherwise, this is a path to nowhere. We have to understand each other. We have to understand why artists are the way they are, why creators are the way they are, why fans are the way they are, why people are angry. We have to come to some understanding of that. And simplistic solutions like they're racist, or they're fascist, or they're liberal, or they're socialist, it's not getting us anywhere. It's not actually helping. You can't really work with creating any kind of bridge against a fascist. That person, I mean, that's kind of the dead end. What common ground can you have with somebody who's a Nazi? None. So if you label half the country as Nazis, then that's saying there's half the country you can't ever engage with, you can't interact with. In fact, they're your mortal enemy. It's not going to work. It's not going to work for anyone. Let me know your comments below. Is there danger in understanding someone? What's that danger? What? Like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter or Facebook at Comic Perch, and thanks for listening.